will be able to actually move. So that is on farm-grade processing, and it's something that we put situated on the leadership of Sahel Consulting. Partnership to scale storage structures. Partnership, it cut across all of us as a group, and I could see a situation where I will expect the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security actually take a lead. The innovation platform is the same thing we are talking here. So it's the same. And the concept of innovation platform is something that we can do within the state, and it could be online. Just have a kind of a structure where people can know that I can deliver this, I can supply this, and I can leverage on this good technology to do my
Recording
business.
in progress.
Thank you very much.
I'm so excited about this group under the leadership of Professor Sani, because this is one area that we have tremendous weakness as storage platforms. I'm glad you mentioned UNIDO, IFAD, FAO, because we need them here on this platform. But we also need to partner on this data. The same data platform we have can incorporate the storage facilities. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel even for the innovation platform. So I think we're seeing some synergies and some overlapping areas here. Professor Sani, I will still challenge you to prioritize. Remember, we have 12 months. So of the 6 ideas I think you listed, if you could only do 3, given limited resources, as we're extending our reports, which of the 3 would you do?
Yeah.
If you can please help us prioritize that would be very important. And then I think one of the things we would love to see is innovation around storage, because I think we're still doing very archaic storage methods in our country, right? Are silos still the best way to store some of what we store? And are large silos still the best way? It's a question. I don't know. You have something to add to that? Yes, please. The 2 people, just introduce yourself. Make it quick, okay? Go ahead.
My name's Aliu Metas Isa. I'm the national president of National Onion Association. And I represent the subsector whereby we are recording about 50 to 60% post-harvest losses. I can remember the onion we harvest in April, it was being sold at that time for 10,000 naira. Now in the month of October, there in Sokoto, it is 100,000 naira. That is borne down to lack of effective storage facility. We have institution or agency like NISFRI. In the whole of the onion producing belt, you cannot find any sophisticated model that you use to store your onion. I think we store 10 bags in the local facilities. Right now that it is 100,000, when I go back, I will just get maximum of 3 bags. So you wonder why a country where you produce 2 million metric tons in April and the product is 10,000 naira, and just in October, you are selling that product for 100,000, and an institution of NISPRI still exists. So I ask, I don't know if they exist as a national president.
Thank you very much. I think it's very practical to hear stories from the field. And we feel the pain that you feel. We do, because all of us buy onions. And onions have become like gold, right? But I can assure you about something. I think you don't know Professor Sani.
Apart from that, there's an information on what he has said.
Yes.
Based on your request, through the former chairman of House Committee on Agric, NISPRI started storage trial for the onions. And we are about to pilot it now. That is the stage we are. So we need to discuss. And I've told them in our section, you will know about NISPRI, because NISPRI was the best research institute on post-harvest in the 70s. It was established in 1948 by the British government. It used to be in charge of any exportable materials to look at insects, pesticides of our commodity going to Europe or all this market. But SON and NAFDAC removed them. And who is the insect expert that we know that there is a pesticide in your cowpea? Nobody. So that is the repositioning of NISPRI that we have to do. A 75-year-old institute, very reputable. that people just put underdog.
Thank you, thank you. But that's why I started off by saying you don't know Professor Sani. So Professor Sani is an action man. There are not many people like him in Nigeria. And I've worked with him for about 15 years, and I can tell you that we're so excited that he's at the helm of leadership of NISPRI, because you're going to see change. Trust us on that, right? So when we come back here, I want you next year to tell us what has happened in the onion sector. Okay? Well done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Mohammed Bello. I'm the director of Noma World Agri Consult and also an academic at the University of Bayero University, Kano. So basically what I'm trying to look at is we are looking at the government institution like NISPRI and some other. I think it's important we also look at the profitability of it. We've had in East Africa, I'm also working with Professor Sani and NRI on issue of post-harvest losses, this AMFIS. There's a platform for assessing cereal post-harvest. There's a database actually already on that. So basically what I'm trying to push out is that warehouse receiving system, I don't know if we're familiar with that, is something that has worked in East Africa. And we believe that one of the first steps to do is to have is a council that oversees the activities of the warehouse system. And I believe USAID, some years back, I was supposed to work on that with the National Assembly. It was presented and then it was rejected. So I believe the warehouse system is important. If we have private sector participating in it, we don't have to depend on government to provide all these things. And the research institute can provide the technical backstopping, and the way the financing will be done by private sector. I believe that is more sustainable and it's also more profitable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think that's a comment. The warehouse receipt systems were introduced when we had Adesina as a minister. Unfortunately, with every subsequent government, it's almost like you throw away everything that was done, but we'll be pushing. So I have two hands, and I want to please crave your indulgence to make them quite quick. Let's hear from the man over there, and then we'll come to you, Madam Shugra. Go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you, moderator. Shehu Ado is my name, from Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. I'm surprised the onion issue came here. Actually, Institute for Agricultural Research for a long time had developed onion rack, which is used for storage of onion. And Sokoto is in Northwest Zone, which is under the jurisdiction of IAR. I think you may need to contact Institute for Agricultural Research. You will get sources of storage of onion where the local at small scale level and even at medium scale level. So that's what I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think your point is well noted, but there's a big gap between what is happening in our research institutes and what's happening in the market. That's a big gap. I can assure you as a private sector operator, and I'm also the co-founder of Ace Foods, and we make onion powder, that what he described is so real because of this gap. So all the great research that you've generated doesn't trickle down. The equipment is not available. I'm not kidding. And when we tried to, I mean, when we started Ace Foods, we went to NIHOT. How many of you know NIHOT? We wrote a letter. They said, you have to write another letter. Come on. This is a private sector institution that needs your help. Do you understand? We went to FIRO. Bottlenecks, bottlenecks, bottlenecks. You're begging somebody to help you create jobs in Nigeria. So I feel his pain. So my brother, what we need to do is bridge the gap between the great research and the great minds in our universities and the private sector and the farmers. Because right now, we're living in two separate worlds and we can't meet. Do you understand? And you might not understand it unless you come and stand in the shoes of somebody who's lost 40 to 60% of their produce, which is a real thing. So let's bridge that gap, okay, with all the great research and the great work. Madam Shugra.
Thank you very much. Mine is on the warehouse receipt system. I know I joined the team that was working on that in 2004. About when we were working on commodity exchange. Now that bill has been in the assembly. I don't know, 2004 to now. Somebody should do the maths for crying out aloud. So I think the Abuja Commodity Exchange, AFEX, and all others that have open commodity exchange, together with the government agencies, need to go and push for to legislation of that, because it will really transform the system. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, very good point. So I sit on the board of the Nigerian Economic Summit. So let's take this on into NASBA. Temi, can you note this down? This warehouse receipts bill that has been stuck for 19 years. It's 19 years. Let's take it on with NESG and see how we can push it, okay? So very practical. Let's come back here a year from now and say it's been pushed. Very good. Thank you, Professor Sani. You see a lot of excitement and interest and support for your work. Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to financing.
Right, thank you. So safe to say we probably had the most engaging session. Of course, we're talking about money, right? So that is interesting. And then again, because we're talking about money, there's very little that people in the room could commit to doing. We have identified things that need to be done. Interestingly, we started from identifying the innovation already in the sector, right? We already agreed that there are a few institutions that have come up with ways to bridge the gap in financing. We identified the likes of Babangona, 1Acre Fund, Thrive Agric, and a couple of others. We were fortunate to have Hello Tractor in the room as well, who are doing some sort of financing with tractors. The one thing I would say is the next step for scaling these is to, I think the suggestion was for us to have a database of these actors and to have some sort of credit risk guarantee in the sense that every farmer that has collected a loan and has defaulted can be seen and known by another organization, because that's what's happening. Somebody takes from Babangona and defaults and then goes to Thrive Agric and other organizations like that. We identified that it's a good model, and on its own, they are scaling up, but for these risks. As SNV, we are also interested in innovative finance. We can take the lead technically to design what this kind of database or credit risk would look like. But I think the responsibility for it then goes beyond any individual organization. I'm not sure, you'll probably sit with maybe Ministry of Agriculture, or I don't know, it's an intersection. So we need to then define who best it will sit with. But we are happy to take the lead to design what that can be. Village Savings Loans and Association was also another model we spoke about, and there are many of them in the rural areas that have been developed by donor programs. Now, for it to scale, there's the one risk was cash, right? Most of them are handling cash. So it now needs to become digital, some sort of technology. There's an opportunity to introduce it so that they can, one, manage the risk of cash and scale it up. We didn't have technology people in the room, and then bankers as well. So there's an opportunity here for people in the technology to look at this Village Savings Loans and Association and see what can be done, for bankers as well with their agents to see how they can target them. Then again, the ecosystem on its own is not favorable for these businesses, with farmer education, even their mindsets. Fortunately, we had people in the room from the Ministry of Agriculture, and there is a need for partnership between these organizations and the Ministry of Agriculture so that they are helping them to educate and change the farmers' mindset on credit and loan and what it means. And then lastly, I think about 85% of the people in the room were not even aware of these innovations. And so there's also the opportunity for all of us in the room who know about this to start to talk about it as stakeholders. The key players themselves need to do more about marketing what is available. And then also for the ministry to know who is doing what, so that there can be an avenue for plug-in as well. And then generally partnership, again, within the sector. The Onions Association has offered to be a link to anyone who wants to fund that sector, so they know the people within they know the players in the market, and they know the farmers. So you don't need to invest too much in KYC. You can go to their organization and they're happy to plug your finance to the farmers. If there are any other associations as well who would offer that, then that will be. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So coming out of this, a few things. So there's already a credit registry and credit bureau that works with SMEs. So why can't we get them to also add on farmers? and they're very reputable. It's one actually called Credit Registry, so I'm happy to connect them to SMV to see if they can extend their services beyond SMEs, because right now they work with all the banks. People were doing the same thing with the banks. I get a loan from GTB, I default. I get a loan from Access Bank, I default. So now they know. You just put in the name, Ndidi Muneli. We're not going to fund her. She's owing 5 banks, right? I'm not owing any bank. I'm just using it as an example. So that's an example. Let's leverage their services for credit, for the credit registry idea. I like the idea of cooperatives. I think we have the Potato Growers Association here. We have quite a few farmer associations here. Let's see if we can actually have a meeting between these association heads and some of the financing community, right? Can SMV help coordinate that? Sahel can host the meeting in our office. It's something we can do in partnership with FMAT and others this year. So that's another one.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that, because I think what you've said is awareness. There's a gap between what is available and who knows. What we created at African Food Changemakers is a funding platform. So you can search by value chain and by country, and you see all the funding available. But most people are not literate, and they're not on that platform. But it's a free platform, so let's do that.
Yeah, and to add as well, so there are many other players in the sector, but then they complained that everybody knows 3. So when there are funding opportunities, it's going to one of the top 3s.
Yes.
And the other ones want to be known as well. So
Yes.
that's the way for us to replicate these. Yeah?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we have to increase the visibility of other players,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody wants to fund these 3. Exactly. I have lots of hands who want to contribute to this discussion. Oh my gosh. I'm going to challenge you 1 minute. Let's start with the man with the hat over there. Okay, 1, 2, keep your hands raised. 3.
Sorry, before the ad, just to note,
4.
Ndidi, that there are like 10 more here.
Oh my gosh.
So we have just, I have just summarized like the top 2, what we should prioritize. Yeah.
Yes, that's good. That's good. 1 minute each, please. Go ahead,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you very much. So my point is we do
Just
a lot.
introduce yourself quickly.
My name is Victor Mataya. So I work with an organization called Satyagraha Institute. So we work mostly in conflict areas, trying to get the farmers back to their land and then help them to start with seed funding. So the challenge I see in most cases is that we have government initiatives when it comes to funding, but right from the outset, they are designed to fail, in the sense that politicians come in, influence the whole process, people collect money without wanting to pay back. So I would like us to really tax government. Government needs to do better. If government needs to give money to private sector to disburse, and it's a business, it's a better model. And then coming back to, sometimes you want to give money and people will tell you somebody who is farming 3 hectares is not qualified. It's wrong. Let's teach people to start farming at a smaller level, and by next year, if you can handle 3 hectares, then maybe 5, 7. And then refinancing is also important. Yes, somebody can start and the business may have hiccups, he can refinance and go forward. That's a better way to do business. I've been fortunate to see some of these.
So I think your points are very well made.
Yeah.
We have to move on to
Lastly,
the next comment.
I saw this work in Ghana, saw this work in Rwanda, where just the way you're talking, credit score. If somebody, it's simple. If you want to collect loan from us, you open a bank account. It's linked to a BVN. Once we impute it, your whole details will come out. So we don't need anybody to know you. Before you collect money from someone else, your details will come up. So we can do it if we really want to.
Fantastic. I like the idea of government funding being almost interrogated. I think after the cleanup at CBN, we can move into some of these exposés because a lot of money has passed through government that has not gotten into the hands of those who need it. And I know it's a controversial issue. I'm not looking at the public sector while I say this, but really we need the money to get to where it's the farmers, the hands of the right farmers who are desperate for cash at the right time, okay? So your point is well noted at the state level, at the federal level. I think we'll have to partner with Oxfam. Can we put Oxfam down for that? It's a great idea. They might be willing to take it on. Any of our other civil society, which other ones do we have that take on these difficult issues? Action Aid. Let's put Action Aid and Oxfam around financing, yeah? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Engineer Baba. I'll talk again. I was in the finance committee. I couldn't talk. The truth is, we need to understand what structure of financing do we have. We have like 8 stages of finances that evolved from money shallow up to sustainable finance that we have today. It was never discussed. We were talking about models. We need to know the model that works. We are talking about sustainability in this generation. We need to come up with strategic models that will work across, not knowing maybe you are a smallholder farmer or a big scale farmer. No. If there is a model, you fall into it. Anybody can come and put his money in there and get his return. That is what we should be looking at.
Okay, thank you. You've made a plug for my book. I have a book called Food Entrepreneurs in Africa, and there's a whole chapter on financing scaling that talks about models. So I'll send you that chapter. So the information is there. The challenge we have is that we don't have, what she was saying was, we don't know who is playing in what space and what is available, right? So right now we have private equity, that's Sahel capitals of the world. We have venture capital. We have risk sharing. We have credit guarantees. They're all available, but there is a lack of awareness, which is what the point she was making. So if we can also in our database include that information, it will help people understand where they fit in and what the right financing is. I think that was the point you made.
Yes, correct.
Yes. All right. I'm going to take 2 more points. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Martins from Quebec Foods. I'll just wrap it up. The focus here is smallholders farmers. For us in Quebec, we are focusing on farmers' household. And these are the people that need this money. So we want to be part of the team if given the opportunity, because we are targeting 200,000 households. We have done all what we needed to do to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. We are the organizers of the program Make We Go Farm, to make sure that all rural communities, smallholder farmers. Talking about credit score is easy to say. We also are in partnership with a payment service bank licensed by the Central Bank. 9 Payment Service Bank can handle that payment solution to make sure things work out for us. Instead of you thinking of, I have about 150 farmers in Ebonyi State. 80% does not have BVN. I contacted my bank, Sterling Bank, to see what we can do to move Sterling Bank BVN enrollment and need whatever. The bank is asking me to finance that. So these are the issues. So if we talk about financing smallholder farmers, we need to increase the numbers and to sustain every huge investment we are talking about, food security.
I think you're right. I think this point about BVN registration is critical. And please, can we add it as a prioritization? Because many of our farmers are not registered, which limits our ability to do the credit scoring. And we've seen that even with the Aldine program. So financial inclusion of farmers. And if we can, I think Yemi Cardozo is a good guy. Let's see if we can get CBN to mandate that these banks actually do what they're supposed to do, register our farmers at their own costs, okay? So can we take that on? Can you take that on? That's a very important one, because credit guarantees and registries cannot happen if they're not registered.
Yes, it's part of it, right? So not take it on, we'll take it on in terms of see what can be done.
No, I know, but can we actually have a meeting with the central bank governor on this issue? Okay. Can that be a takeaway that he said he wants to get involved, right? Fully supports. I think Sahel Consulting can partner with a few other people here and see if we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
Hi. There are too many people who want to talk. I don't know where are we going to go home today? What time is it? There are great ideas you're coming up with. 1 minute. 1 minute. Huh?
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, just to share a solution. I went into farming out of fear. And I did that because my mom never believed in farming anymore because of the losses she encountered. And if you want to scare her, just say, Mommy, I'm farming, and she'll start crying because I saw her make losses. I was going to go into an area, a superfood area, and when she heard about it, she was already thinking of how I'll come out with losses. But thank God I stood true. Now, because I was going into that area, I had to start a farmers cooperative with the little women in the market I started with women that could not even count 50,000. I started with women that if they count 30,000, they can take hours to finish counting. I struggled, but I found out, I'm even surprised hearing a lot of bodies here. I was just telling my neighbor, I was like, these people exist. But I can say today, these women, I have farmers who farm. When the products come, I take the ones I want to process. And I also have market women who come to take from these farmers. Now, the market women pay a little on that capital because I have to refund the fund to the individuals who give to me. And so that has made my cooperative a bit stable. I have farmers who
So
farm.
you're talking about trade financing, off-taker models?
We give them seedlings. We go as far as being able to source
so
for
that's
the
what
seedlings.
you just described. Yes.
Yeah. Very smallholder women farmers. They plant, they do everything. I hire tractors. Even when the climate change issue started, I had to look for resource persons to come and talk to these women.
Okay, so yours is a case study of an
so
off-taker model
because
that
I didn't want
works.
to fail and I didn't want my mom to laugh at
And
me.
it's demand-driven, which is the key.
I have done a lot of things without superfood today. So I'm
Yes.
just saying, yes, there are challenges, but I think if you're waiting for the government, you may not do anything.
Yeah, but
So
you've
if you're
said a few
passionate-
key words that we use in our industry. Demand-driven, off-taker models.
Yes.
Where you're providing inputs.
Sure.
And access to markets.
In fact,
And
yes,
it works.
It
works.
works.
It's been proven to work all over the world, and
It
you're proving
works.
it. So let's give her a round of applause. Well done, my sister.
Yeah,
Listen, we don't have time for stories. We still have group 6 and 7. So
Thank
we
you.
need to round up.
Yes,
What I
I'll
would
be
say is
very
I'm going to
brief.
take one more comment.
Yes.
You're the last one.
Yes.
After which, please meet the head of financing for other ideas. Okay?
Yeah,
So go
thank
ahead,
you so
sir.
much. I will be very brief. I was in the group 7 that talks about financing. I am from Federal Ministry of Agriculture, the sweet potato desk officer. Just as I emphasized, the issue of financing is very critical. And I know if you are talking about financing, you are trying to make to come in the area of business. If we don't intensify our activities on training, changing the mindset of our farmers to see farming as a business, there is a big challenge. Until we come up with a solution, and I know GIZ has already done a very good job in the area of innovation that we have been using in the Ministry of Agriculture to conscientize our farmers and sensitize them, train them to change their mindset, which we call Farmers Business School. If other organization or development partner can also upscale or support this innovation, it will go a long way. Because if the farmers doesn't believe, they see farming as a way of life and not as a business.
So
no matter how much of
financing is
money
not a standalone solution.
Yes.
You're sitting next to a woman who has just described a solution. It's demand-driven, market-led, and she is providing the training. So what we need to do is support models that are working and help them scale. So thank you very much.
Innovation is necessary.
Fantastic. All right. Sorry, everybody else who has raised their hand, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Susan.
Meet Susan. If you can't find Susan, meet Temi.
Exactly.
Group 6. Let's go to group 6, please.
Okay, thank you. Group 6, the role of early warning system in building a resilient food system. Now, the theme of this program is rethinking food and nutrition security in the face of climate change. But from the participation at that subgroup, you understand our perception about weather and climate. We tend to neglect it. Only when we have hazard, it would destroy all the investments. So our attitude towards climate information, even from the subgroup, tells a lot about our perception when it comes to weather and climate. Now, we had a few of us, but very, very engaging. That's why I had to come in late, because the questions keep coming. Some from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Private weather information, Ignitia, were there. And obviously, I was there, and other partners, Sahel was there also. So we looked at the role of early warning, and we understood the gap. There's a huge gap, because even in mapping the key players in early warning, you have only NIMET as a producer in there, where you have other partners like NISA that does the flood early warning. Even the Ministry of Agriculture has a role in early warning in terms of pests and disease. So mapping the key stakeholders in early warning, first of all, we need to start from there. It's not only meteorological. It has to do with every player in terms of early warning for agriculture, be it pest and disease, be it even financial early warning can come into play. Now, we understood from what we are doing, there's a huge gap in terms of communication. Now, this early warning information, Even the United Nations is talking about early warning for all. The end-to-end early warning. Early warning should get to everyone in every part of the country, every part of the world on time. Now, for us to move forward, we need to understand that this early warning should be timely, should be accurate, should be usable, and should be actionable. Now, timely and accurate, we all understand, but usable. Now, this information gets to you. How do the small scale or smallholder farmer put it to good use? There should be a level of capacity development within the community. Then actionable. If you have this information coming to you, what are your options? That is where we come together. I give you the climate information. You look at your various options. What are your livestock options? What are your crop options? And even in getting finance, they need to understand the risks in that area before they can invest in whatever enterprise you're going into. So we have to map out the key players in early warning, because the group agreed that we need to have a conversation on early warning, understand the key players, where we have to come together, map out these key players, then we move on with that. Secondly, we need, in this country, develop a common alerting protocol that is for the food system, whereby, because there's a lot of information flying around and our farmers are confused, but when we have a single common alerting protocol whereby, this information is coming from a reliable source, be it NIMET, NISA, Ministry of Agriculture, and the rest. It comes one-stop shop for early warning system. That is key. Importantly, also, we need to engage more on climate financing, because we're talking about climate change. So we need to understand climate financing. And before we do understand climate financing, we need to map out the risks. We discuss some good examples. Like NIMET is currently working with FAO in the Northeast. We're working with the Farmers Field School using the PIXA approach, whereby the farmers are trained on how to access climate information, what are their resources, because we have different grades of farmers, both the wealthy and the very poor. What are their options, and how can they make use of this information? And that is when it becomes actionable. And it's a flawed information. And this information also, how do we disaggregate this information? Like last year, we were talking about flood all over the country, but you'll be surprised that even in Benue State, there are communities we have visited that last year they suffered drought. So we'll be looking at multi-hazard early warning system. Because even in this country right now, where we are talking about, we know some states that have gone through a level of drought between July and August that affected the food production in that area. So we need to understand this thing so that we work together as a team and have a common alerting protocol. I don't want to say much on that, but that is what we dwell in. Thank you.
So much. Now, when I saw the numbers that came to your group, I said, this is a problem. So your first problem is, how do you increase awareness and a sense of urgency? And I would like to see, you didn't mention which partners, but I would like to see telecoms as part of your partners for implementation. If we can get robot calls for elections, how many of you got robot calls for elections? Vote this person. If you can get text messages for elections, why can't you get an alert? In every state in America where there's going to be a flood, I get an alert on my phone. There's going to be a flood today. 3 inches of rain, be ready. And this is for drivers. So can we have a meeting with the telecommunications, the 3 major or 4 major companies?
We identify NCC.
NCC plus the private companies. Can we have a meeting urgently?
Yeah.
Because guess what? Our cell phones are the best weapon we have right now. And if you can be that credible source of information, we can drive this awareness. So I'm saying there's some I want to see the practical next steps by next year. I'm challenging you because we're going to get your reports, and we're going to send it to all the ministers who should have been here, and we're also going to write articles for the newspaper. We want to capture what you've said accurately. So please, you don't have to answer all of that now, but please document it, okay? Yeah. Any burning issues on his presentation? Radio stations, definitely.
They should be expanded to include these
We're
media
going to
houses.
include media houses, radio stations.
Very
Thank you.
important.
Very good. One last comment over there. You didn't introduce yourself, sir, but I know you, but the other people might not. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the insights that you have given from the group discussion. My name is Nasir Mohammed. I'm a special advisor for the Office for Strategic Preparedness and Resilience, right? And exactly what was discussed is exactly what we do. We serve to be the platform or the foundation upon which all of the various stakeholders who gather data related to all of the resilience issues affecting climate and energy security, bring that together, analyze it, and then send that information out to the various stakeholders who it's going to affect. Very quickly, I'll tell you a story of what happened during the floods last year. There was a private sector company, which I'm part of, Koamana. We do market management. We gather information from smallholder farmers and small markets. We found ourselves in a very precarious situation whereby these farmers were getting in touch with us via our call center to say, we are getting flooded. We are at risk. What can you do to assist us? We got that data, and in very real time, in a real-time scenario, we're able to inform other farmers about what is happening in their bordering communities. This is the type of capability that we want to work with, expand that, scale that across the country, and this is an open invitation to work together to make this happen. Thank you.
Much. And that's why we really believe in private-public partnerships. That was the key, right, to our design of this conference today. Public sector can't do it alone. Private sector can't do it alone. Civil society, we need everybody working together. Really quickly, my sister, really quickly. Give her 1 minute, please. This is an important topic, so let's hear from you, and then we'll hear from Group 7. Last but not the least.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tammy. I'm with the Federal Ministry of Agric and Food Security. Okay, so I was also in Group 6, and this is one issue that I believe we've all ignored. The impact of the climate on diseases, agriculture, and even the health sector. If the climate sector advises the health sector that it's going to rain, the issue of handling malaria as a whole can be addressed because people will take preventive measures to ensure that their surroundings are taken care of and mosquitoes don't have a breeding ground. If you have information from the meteorological sector concerning agriculture, people will know when to harvest early or what to do so that they don't have loss. And so I believe that today was the first time I actually knew that they were actually functioning very well in Nigeria. I'm sorry. I believe they really need to let their presence be felt. They need to, be robust in telling people what the value of who they are to every sector in Nigeria. And I think that should really be done in a very loud way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have your marching orders, and Nigeria is ready and waiting for your help and your leadership. So thank you. Group 7, last but not least.
Thank you. Finally. So I'd like to thank Sahel for the invitation, and thank you to the team for all that you do. Plenty problems. The class was packed. And we'll just start with the fact that the Minister of Interior was not invited. The Minister of Police Affairs was not invited. We talk a lot about security in Nigeria, but unfortunately, we think security lasts. You build a 15 billion house, the last thing you're thinking about is security. And so we've had the food system resilience, and from an enterprise risk or resilience management perspective, you need to drill in resilience. And if a critical stakeholder as security is not on board, then we have all the fine talk we have here, but at leadership level, we're not inculcating in them the right values and emphasis to security as should be. Now, remember that in the 2019 National Security Strategy, we for the first time say we would do human security as a pivot upon which we will do national security. And resilience, the aspirations of the people, food security, all fall under human security. So I do talk a lot, so I'll stop at that and say that hopefully next year, please let's bring them in because they don't know what the smallhold farmers go through. There's a control center, there's a ring in, so you need to understand the why, the how, and the what, so that the support from law enforcement will be robust. Now, part of what we also tried to propose was an agro desk in the Ministry of Interior. I don't want to go into some policy problems that we have, but the Ministry of Police Affairs should not have been created in the first instance. It should be under the Ministry of Interior. So we have one-stop shop for that. So every agency that has to do with security should have an agro desk where the issues of agro-related security incidents are dealt with, first of all. Two, we also identified the fact that, and I like to speak about first mile, last mile. It's very good. A number of associations are here. Security education, alternate dispute resolution, conflict management is not a curriculum they are familiar with. So there's a need for a development agency or an NGO to take security awareness and education to these people, because some of the problems you have, alternate dispute resolution will solve it. There are cases like cassava farmers who have resolved with the headers. And in our group, it was said that crop or livestock are farmers. Farmers are farmers. So this dichotomy between headers and farmers is just wrong. So you farm cassava, the peels and everything you give back to the headers who give you manure. There are historical cases to collaboration between crop and livestock farming. So those entrenched local alternative dispute resolution measures are the pillars upon which we will strengthen security at the local level, because that's where resilience starts from. We know that, and we won't run away from the fact that security of life and property is the first responsibility of government. But let's start with local initiative. Okay, so we did come up with a number of initiatives we want to talk about. There are a lot. I'll just do like top 4. So the one on law enforcement leadership is very important, cannot be overruled. The next part is we're here in Abuja, who is engaging the commissioners of all the states. So let's take that orientation and reorientation back. And that's important because at the subnational level, for far too long, we have shifted responsibility for local initiative to the center. If everybody's responsible for something, nobody's responsible. But the subnationals, when it comes to land and agriculture, the ownership of land is vested at subnational level, and land is critical input for agriculture. So we need to have them more responsible. We need to now hopefully take some of these conversations to that subnational level. A session with commissioners of agriculture across the country may not be a bad idea, with other multi-sector stakeholders, so that whatever communication we have, and security should be there also. Then the other thing we talked about was expanding knowledge on system engineering. My co-panelists will probably talk about that a lot, but they have a number of engineered seeds that don't grow beyond a certain height. And that's very important because in security, we talk about line of sight and operational visibility. So if you are growing certain crops in high-risk areas that go above a certain height, it becomes a problem for the security operatives because they don't have line of sight. They don't know what is behind the line, and therefore they cannot do their work effectively. But thankfully, in security, there's a new knowledge area that is called crime prevention through environmental design. From the conversation we have, there can be crime prevention through seed re-engineering. And so I'll allow Dr. Ignatius to talk a bit more about that. And we also talked about developing a security network with all the associations. Everybody's talking about security networks and early warning. So in risk advisory and risk management, because we do support a number of INGOs, NGOs, development partners who operate in austere parts, early warning in terms of a threat alert can be the difference between life and death for somebody visiting high-risk zone. So if all the associations that are agro-allied associations can be sensitized on security, a curriculum developed for them, they are trained, we help them set up an intelligence sharing network, and then we push a bit more because Katsina, case in point, has a community something corps they just did yesterday to have about 1,400 community people. So if you have like the Onions Association, the Tomatoes Association, something is happening in their area, they're sharing intelligence, they're sharing information, and then the desk in law enforcement is open liaison, and periodically we monitor to see that they're seamlessly working. We can improve resilience, operational resilience for the smallhold farmers and for medium-scale farmers. I will just share one thought. I think I see Ndidi standing now, maybe time. But again, I said to Raymond and the team that when it comes to security, we never get enough time. A whole day can be on security and we still will not exhaust it. So just one last point. I think we talk about database. Okay, that's on the security sharing. And lastly, for the sake of food resilience, we need to go state policing. And I say this here without fear that it's on record that the state governors return back the review of the Nigerian Police Act, refusing to assent to state police, not the federal government. And when they were queried, a lot of them said because they don't have funds. So hopefully we have removed subsidy. We are saving 1 trillion, 100 billion every year. We can revisit back the issue of state police. Because if the communities are not secured, if the local government chairmen are not brought into the picture, there's a limit to what NGOs, development partners, private people can do. So that conversation, as it ties into agriculture, food resilience, and our own national food security must be held. Because space and place is important for the proliferation of crime. And once you have what they call ungoverned spaces, which is an aberration in language, there's nothing like that, then you have those spaces being the basis for operation for crime. It's also an aberration to hold the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria responsible for security issues in the local government. It's also an aberration to have the military involved in internal security. It should be the police, it should be the NSCDC, it should be the states, it should be the local governments. So as it affects food security, we must take security local and support local security initiatives. With that, I yield the floor to my colleague. Thank you.
Fantastic. This is an issue that's very near and dear to all of our hearts. If you're not affected by insecurity in Nigeria, raise your hand. If you are not affected by insecurity in Nigeria, raise your hand. There are farms abandoned all over Nigeria because of insecurity. And these ideas are spot on. I can already see one of them that we would love to support on. Really, this one about having all the industry associations have an early warning system, and would love to work with you on that, because that's very practical. So great ideas. Please give them another round of applause.
Yeah,
I'll just ask you, please, just one comment, right, on the seeds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. He did mention the crime prevention environmental design, which came up using the dwarf sorghum that give visibility to all the security agents within a particular community, and that it can give them both the cereals and the legumes at the same time, which the farmers do. And these are early maturing materials that you can harvest within 3 months, which also help to avoid the issue of crop-livestock clash among the farmers. And we have also designed a kind of stover crusher that can convert those stocks into feeds for those animals. But the general thing that we look around is that just like the National Orientation Agency has all from the top to the local government, that can be also engaged for along the farmers in terms of educating and the early warning. When they see signs, they will be able to send message well ahead of time. And that's where we need those essays and whatever to be part of those National Orientation Agency that goes down to the local communities along with the farmers, if that can be taken. That's why we are talking about awareness creation between now in the next 12 months can go a long way to see how we can facilitate, empower the farmers with the early warning signs that they can discover, and use this new environmental design to prevent crime on their farmlands within the shortest possible time. Thank you.
Sorry, fantastic, fantastic. Please give my esteemed panelists, team leaders, you have to give them a bigger round of applause. You know why? You're thanking them for the work they're going to do after today. Another round of applause, please. Can we take a group picture before I hand over to, I think we're going to have closing remarks, right? So please, let's take a group picture while our closing remarks are being prepared.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together once again for all our facilitators? Thank you so much. I think that round of applause is just a bit tiring. Can we make it more energetic? Can we add more layers of energy to it? More. Thank you. I like that. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to all our panelists. And what do we say to our moderator who facilitated this session? Can we put a big round of applause for her as well? Thank you, indeed. Okay, I think this was my best session. How many of us would agree to that? Okay, so everyone, I think I like the fact that we are agreeing to that. I like the fact that, everyone had to share. And we're not just talking problem analyzing, we were talking action points. What is the way forward? And we have a timeline. There's something about goal. Every goal should be smart, specific, measurable, actionable, and there should be a timeline. And we know we're working with the next 12 months. So when we're coming back for the third conference, we're saying, this is what we achieved, and this is what we look forward to doing. So once again, can we all put our hands together for ourselves? Every one of you. For those of you who asked questions, who contributed, well done. So we have come to the end of the 2023 Sahel Food System Changemakers Conference. And to give the closing remark is someone who has been actively involved throughout the planning process from the beginning up until now. She is the Senior Human Resource Manager at Sahel Consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Antonia Ajayi Taiwo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or better still, good evening to you, our change makers, right? Because that is what we are, change makers. Great. So we'd like to say thank you to all our donors, to our partners, to our speakers, to our facilitators, our moderators, to everyone behind the scene. And of course, very important, to all of you seated here and to our change makers online. Please, a round of applause. So our charge here today is very simple. It is that these recommendations, these resolutions, these suggestions that we have all come here to put together will not remain as resolutions and recommendations and action, as resolutions in a year's time. Do we agree? We're going to turn them into actions, right? Great. So join us as we change the African agriculture and nutrition landscape. Join us as we change the narratives. Thank you once again, and see you next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can put our hands together one more time for Antonia. Okay, so we are officially done with today's event, but to officially close, I want us to be upstanding as we take the national anthem to officially close this event, and then we head out for lunch. But there's an important announcement. Please, if you picked up a bag that is not yours from Group 3 during the breakout session or any of the breakout session, do well to see any of the ushers and submit any of the bag you picked up. So we're going to take the national anthem to bring this event officially to a close. And after that, we head on to the second stanza. Okay, after that, we head for the lunch. So we're taking the second stanza of the national anthem. Media, are we ready? Everyone, are we ready? All right, we're going to take it after the count of 2. 1, 2, go. Oh God of creation, direct our noble call. Guide our leaders right. Help our youth the truth to know. In love and honesty to grow and live in just and truth. Great lofty height attain to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless Nigeria. See you at next year's conference, and make sure we take action on every point we have implemented. So lunch is over there. So just follow the ushers. Go have lunch. Enjoy the rest